Welcome everybody, namaste. How's everybody today? Where are we here? Some light for everybody. Here you go. Welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight. In a few minutes, I know several people are gonna usually tend to take 2 or 3 minutes to jump in. So I'm gonna give them that time. In the meantime, for all of those of you who honored the time and you're here, welcome. Thanks for being here. I'm gonna share, we're gonna open sacred space, and I will be sharing today a little bit about thought, a little bit about how we tend to think and how we tend to act, and what the shamans have to say about that. So before we begin, again, just giving a little space of 2-3 more minutes for anyone else who is planning to join tonight. I invite you to take to have a comfortable seat, take a moment, finding a more meditation-like seat. And if you'd like, close your eyes, and as you close your eyes, bring your attention inward. Take a moment and feel your breath. If you'd like to, again, sitting in meditation, close your eyes, inhale into your body, and feel as you're inhaling that you're inhaling not only life force into your body, but you're also inhaling care, that you're caring for yourself, that you're inhaling love, that you're bringing love to yourself, that you're inhaling healing, that you're bringing healing to yourself. And I will open sacred space to the winds of the south. Amaru, great serpent, be here with us. Wrap your coils of light around us and teach us how to shed our skin and let go of the past. May we learn today how to let go of the past, how to let go of thoughts that are negatively charged and hold us back. Be here, Amaru. Help us shed our skin. Horpichai. To the winds of the west, Totorongo Jaguar. Jaguar, be here and teach us no fear. Teach us how we can really get a hold of our thoughts and have thoughts that are courageous, that lead us to our next place of evolution and to a healed state of being. Hotpichai. To the winds of the north, hummingbird, colibri, be here with us. Bring your sweetness, bring your nectar. Teach us how to have sweet thoughts about ourselves and others. Hotpichai. To the winds of the east, sweet, amazing condor, rise above. And as you rise above, teach us how to rise there, how we can teach us how to raise our thoughts in higher frequencies, and raise our thoughts in the place that you teach us. As we fly high above with you and we can see the greater picture, we can cultivate and live in the quality of discernment. May our thoughts always have discernment. Horpichai. Your feet flat on the earth, maybe reaching your hand to hold Mother Earth. Pachamama, Dulce Mamita, thank you, Mother Earth, for all your gifts. Thank you for keeping us grounding. Thank you for providing everything we need. May we sit together here on you tonight and share this space, and may we all take a moment to feel into your healing. Horpichaya, Mother Earth. And rising up the sun, Nititaita, Mama Kia. Thank you, Father, Son, Grandmother Moon. Thank you for being here. Thank you for holding us. Thank you, Father, Son, for the prana that you send us, your energy, your life energy. And thank you for the light so we can see with clarity and think with clarity. Thank you for your flames that you send so we can burn all ways of thinking and being. And Mama Kia, sweet Mother Moon, Grandmother Moon, thank you for your reflective quality. May we be reflective when we think. May we be clear when we think. And thank you, Mother Moon, for your sweetness. Thank you for your unconditional love. May we have unconditional love in mind when we think, when we are thinking. Horpichai. I invite you to bring your hands to your heart and bow to your heart and thank yourself for being here. And as you're bringing your attention to your heart, may our meeting today be about moving some of that thinking into our heart, into feeling, so we feel through situations, circumstances, and people. May we feel with love towards all. If you wish to, and only if you wish to, you can bow deeper to any god or goddess, saint, avatar, angel, or archangel. Sweet. And inhale gently and rise. Namaste once again. Namaste. And I'm going to say to all my Greek friends that are here, καλησπέρα σε όλους που είσαστε εδώ από την Ελλάδα. Just a little hello for all my Greek friends that are visiting. So tonight I'm going to talk about thought a little bit, some, and I'm going to invite you to share any questions. And I hope that when I start sharing my thoughts about thought, that it won't be too long, so we'll have plenty of time on the other side to talk about questions. So let's take a moment. So I would like to say that let's define thought. It's funny, I should have looked it up on Wikipedia, but I'm going to say that thought is the way we process what is surrounding us, what is happening in an exchange, another exchange with another human being, and how we process our entire life and every decision that we make. And so thought is also a biological kind of activity that happens when I am in thought, when we do this or we do this. It's a biological action of igniting sparks in the brain, creating these sparks that give us insight, or basically creating thought itself. When we look at it, it's going to look like in an MRI, like little sparks happening. And if we have a lot of thoughts, we'll have more sparks happening. And if we have some grand ideas, we're going to have bigger sparks happening. Synapses, these sparks are called synapses. Synapses, of course, is another Greek word. Synapses means, synapsis means, you could say that synapsis means on one hand, it means a, what is it called? I'm losing my English when I think in Greek. Synapsis means a final decision on something. It's when I put together all my information and I put it together in an abbreviation. Actually, synapsis is an abbreviation of everything that I brought into my mind. So I'm going to back up and say, so what we really do when we think is that we are processing and making decisions. So when I talk to someone, I'm listening to their words, I'm replaying the words in my head, and I'm checking across the board of my values and belief systems and knowledge. And I am immediately, the brain automatically pulls out these files that have to do with what I'm talking about. Right? So when I'm hearing something, I immediately compare it to my values. I immediately compare it to my general knowledge of the subject that's been talked about. And definitely, I also check in with my emotions, especially when it has to do with a conversation with another person. And then, of course, especially if it's an intimate relationship, I'm always checking in with my emotions, etc. There's many things to be said about thought. The thing with thought is that thought, before we even process the moment that's happening or the conversation is happening, thought is happening all the time. Wave your hand if you're one of those people like me or like everyone. The brain constantly thinks, it's constantly processing things. Now, the brain has the amazing capacity to remember things from the past. Can you imagine if we lived a life where, you did yesterday and yesterday is just gone and now you're just here. So you're just like, I knew here. I guess that would be a problem, because if we forget what happened yesterday, we'd probably eventually forget our language. We'd probably forget everything we know, how to do it, where to go to work. If we're going to work somewhere, if we're commuting, we forget everything. But nonetheless, thought, or the ability of the mind, is to have to store memory from everything that's happening in the past. Even my last sentence, what I just finished saying, is in the past and now belongs in the memory bank. So if you try to go into what I just said, you're going to be going back into your memory bank. So on one hand, thought is a way of processing. And again, on one hand, the brain has the ability to remember the past, and it has another extraordinary ability. It can project in the future. It can project in the future. So if I think that I have a good idea, I can project in the future of how we can say, hey guys, it's so cool that you're all here tonight. And it's such a success that we all want to do it again. And we could project how we could do it. Actually, we're doing it August 10th. If you haven't registered, open house, we'll be talking about the Jaguar path. So we could all project at August 10th that we're meeting again. There is one little like glitch or a little like gap that the brain has, is that it doesn't actually process, and it's almost not actually the receiver of the present moment. The brain and the thinking process is not something that can actually grasp the present moment in any possible way, even if it has to store it and then look back at it at least a second as a memory of a second ago or a minute ago. The brain can't feel when it's happening. And here's the key element of the shamanic work. And before I jump in and say how shamans think, I'll say how we all think. So first of all, let's establish and understand that we really, when we think, we're only collecting information from the past. But when we're living something in the present moment, one thing we're not aware of in the Western world and in the way we have structured idea about how reality works is we don't realize that at the present moment, we're fully either embodied or we're fully using our ears and eyes and information. Like right now, you're feeling and sensing me speaking to you. There is real micro and in fast speed processing of, does my energy match my words? And there's a constant then adding on to where am I going to put this? Where am I going to file this? And I'm just going to simplify it a little bit so I don't get too caught up in thought and too caught up in the labyrinths that thought can really actually create. We think, and thinking means that I'm processing the past and I am projecting in the future. The most important thing that is happening to us, though, is what is happening to us right now. And maybe you could say, well, you know, your Dharma talk is not the most important thing. The right now, whatever it is that you've chosen to be, is what is more important, because the right now is the only true thing that actually is your entire life. This now is your entire life. And I've felt, and I'll try to speak in the I and not generalize things, is like I've felt that a lot of my thinking, a lot of my processing usually takes me away from being present in the present moment. Exactly because of the inability of the mind, of the brain, to feel what is happening. It's a processor and a recorder. It records and processes, puts things in place. But it's not fully here. And again, who is here? Who is here is your experience of the moment, of what you're seeing and hearing. And then especially more intently and clearly when we're in the presence of someone else, it is their energy in full. We're feeling with our body, we're feeling with our heart. Even now you're feeling with your heart. You're receiving the present moment through your heart, even through just your eyes and your ears. When we're together, you're also feeling my energy body. You're also feeling the whole energy, my aura, and what I'm putting out. And in many ways, you're actually able to feel that, to discern that, to extract that from the image you're seeing on the screen right now. I think one of the trickiest things that I found in my evolution and in my trainings with shamans, it was exactly that. I changed my mind. I changed how I think. And that is a process that is really tricky for the obvious reason. Our brain identifies with who we are right now. So I'm Ray, and what I'm thinking is Ray, and it's right. And what I'm thinking is right, and what I'm thinking is cool. Anyone else feel the same thing about their thoughts? Well, I most of the time. But then there's other times in the day where I used to have this Ray voice in my head that said, I'm not cool, I'm not good, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, and I'm not tall enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not trained enough. So in other words, we can have moods coming from our thinking brain, and or actually I should just say it clearly, it's more than moods. We have two voices in our head. We have a minimum of two voices in our head. We have two places that our thoughts are coming from. One is the higher self, what I call the shaman, what I call the enlightened one, the already awakened one. And the other that comes constantly and uh, more often is what I call the narrator. If you look it up, we can call it the ego. And if we look up ego, the Greek word ego, it means who I identify with who I am. So I've created this image about myself of who I am, and I'm coming from there. But the ego or the narrator is not, and all the thoughts our narrators have, is not personal thoughts. And let me clarify that. So again, there's two thoughts that we have, two places our thinking comes from, two voices. One voice is the shaman within, the knower, the knowing, already enlightened person, the wise one, the deep, deep wise one, our soul who has so much experience from the past and is so knowledgeable and so kind and compassionate and wise and awake and present. And then we have our narrator who is whatever, 30 years old, 40 years old, 57 years old for me, whatever your age is. The higher self, the shaman, lives for centuries. It's our soul that comes from body to body. It's our soul that exists and coexists in this realm of saints, essentially, and energies. Our part of ourself that is always with God and knows that everything is love and that there is no place that you can go that love is not. So our narrator, and I've had the questions like, so how do you know if you're thinking from your higher self or if you're thinking from your narrator? And here's a good rule of thumb so you can discern and you can know when you're thinking, who's thinking and whose voice are you really listening to? If your thoughts are negative, 100%, your thoughts are coming from the narrator. If your thoughts are of something that is, maybe it's not even negative, maybe it's like not being enough. If your thought has any kind of color that is like not approving, if your thought, say this, feels that there's lack of love or there's lack of divine energy, that thought is a thought that comes from the narrator. The thought of the narrator and the thinking of the narrator is this whole place in the whole of the brain that is created and is created as such. It's created to make sure, to ensure that what you're saying is understandable, acceptable, and will keep you in the tribe. What I'm saying is understandable, it's acceptable, hopefully it's lovable. It's like I'm saying the narrators are saying things, excuse me, not lovable. What the narrator is saying are words that we have collected from the collective consciousness. So if I am thinking anything that is bad and good, take politics, there's been millions of conversations. I never partake in political conversations. I don't believe in politics. But how many political views there are and thoughts. COVID, thoughts and views, just like about everything. Every human being has immediately a thought, has immediately something to say, and every human being knows everything and knows that their opinion is right. So if we just go into Condor, I ask Condor to be with us in this, and we rise above thinking and rise above how we think, and for a moment look at that as a human idea. That people think that we think, the human species also always thinks that what it's thinking is correct, right? Because if you're not thinking that, there's something unhealthy about that too. So it's a catch-22. You're thinking that everything I'm thinking is correct, and I know all the data that I need to know. Basically, like when my son was 14, even last month, he said, Dad, I'm 19, and you should know I know everything. So I can't tell anything to my 19-year-old son because he already knows everything, right? And I'm saying that killingly because it's a joke between us. He's in the know that not all thoughts are exactly correct. So there's that thought. And the way we think basically is absolutely a parallel and a parroting the collective consciousness. And it is fully loaded with judgment, with doubt, and then fill in the blank. Fill in the blank, feel it. So sometimes for me, or for years in the past, it was anger. My thoughts were fueled with anger. Sometimes maybe it was for another person, our thoughts are fueled with fear, or our thoughts are fueled with anxiety, or our thoughts are filled with insecurity. Our thoughts are loaded with, so I can go through the list of emotions that are normal emotions, and we all as mammals have. Fear, anger, all these negative things. And what happens is this, that while we're thinking and we're just moving around in life, the brain tells us usually, I used to do this in yoga, that you could do what you're doing. If your hands are busy and you're doing something, you could be thinking about something else. So this is the problem, and this is why we're talking about thought. If I'm doing something and if I'm not thinking on purpose on what I'm doing right now, I'm really not present with what I'm doing. Well, maybe you say, well, I'm thinking about solving a problem. Well, what I'm thinking of is solving no problem because I'm not there where the problem exists to solve it. The brain says, well, if I had, like, say, I went through 20 years ago, I went through a divorce. Some people say I went through a difficult divorce. I went through a divorce. What happens is that our thoughts are absolutely fueled by our emotions, and our emotions feed into the collective consciousness ideas, archetypes, and basically the collective consciousness frame of mind. For the yogis and the shamans, the idea is very clear. I begin to put a filter. I begin to check in with what I'm thinking. And as I am thinking, I'm already asking, where is this voice coming from? Am I in my narrator or in my higher self? Again, most usually, because the brain works automatically, we're always in the narrator. And the narrator is giving you the paradigm of the collective consciousness. And that ensures you will remain in this collective consciousness, in this tribe, so you're safe. We have this like ancient thing in our brain that if I am going to start to not think like everyone else around me, I will be kicked out of the tribe. And that will increase my chances of dying 1,000%, 1,000 times. Right? So in our subconscious, in order to survive, we go along with the collective. We don't negate the collective. We don't say no to the collective. And not only that, because of the not only that, but also if you want to know if you're listening to the voice of the narrator or the voice of the enlightened one, it's really easy. 90% of the times, 99% of the times, would say the narrator is speaking negatively or is speaking undercover negatively. I have a beloved friend who is a shaman and enlightened person who says, if you have a voice inside your head that says, I'm not good enough, or I'm feeling this, and I shouldn't have done that, and I shouldn't, and could have, and didn't, and you have all that. Imagine that that's a friend, or a person rather you know, that's outside you. And if you had that person next to you and they were all going about this, you shouldn't have done that, Ray, you shouldn't have done that, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. How long would you put up with a person next to you that has that kind of talking? I believe that the answer is I would put up for 5 minutes and I would say, excuse me, either stop talking or leave, walk away from me. And it's really, really tricky because we don't do that to our narrator because we think that that's who we truly are. And here's the surprise, and here's the trick. Here is where it gets tricky. It's like we are not who we think we are. We are, and I'll tell you why, because when we think we're describing, when we're thinking we're describing or breaking down something that is. And that's the biggest problem with most people, or most of us have. It's like, I'm trying to figure out who I am. And that directly is, first of all, a problem because there is no answer to that. Who are you right now? I can ask you who you are right now. If you're playing basketball in the court and with some other buddies, I'm going to ask you, who are you now? You could say I'm a basketball player. If I ask you now, you could say I'm a person that participates in Dharma talks. If I ask you when you're walking with your wife or your husband hand in hand, I'm going to say, who are you? You're going to say, I'm so-and-so's husband or so-and-so's wife. There is no I am, and that's where shamans come in. And that's where the big trick and difficulty of evolution happens. How do I change who I am? And changing who I am begins from understanding that there is no I am right now. What there truly is being, right? I am not something that is, here I am, this is all over here. Because if you ask me who I am and you describe me, well, let me tell you in detail who I am, I have to describe to you 57 years, minute to minute. So it's uncatchable. It's not something that I am. I am, as an evolutionary human being, I'm constantly not who I was yesterday. And as true being, what's happening is we're not who we were yesterday. Our cells change, some cells die, some cells come, the moon is gone, we have gone around the sun, we have changed location, nothing is the same. Heraclitus said, tapadare, everything moves, everything is in flow, everything's in flow. So I'm not who I was yesterday. Yet our mind is trying with everything to hold on to who we were yesterday. We've gotten this into our mind somehow that we need to identify with who we are and we need to keep that intact. Most of it comes from that mammalian way of being that says, if I am like who I was yesterday, if I lived my life yesterday and I survived it and I lived and I was okay and I woke up today, maybe I should just do the same thing because that gives me chances that I'm going to survive this day too, and I'll live tomorrow. So this is a basic mammalian. This is what's happening in the brain. But here's this other way of being. I can step back from that. This is all of the meditation practices. They teach us how to begin to, first of all, hear our voice, acknowledge that there's a voice that's speaking a thought inside our mind. And acknowledge that I can decide what I'm thinking, or maybe even try to slow down what I'm thinking. When I'm able to acknowledge that there's a narration happening in my mind, then and only then can I begin to have the opportunity to quieten that voice, to feel that it can be in a void of emptiness, of this whole huge existence, and to actually intuit, catch that other voice that is the wise one. And I say intuit because besides the prefrontal cortex, our new brain, the pituitary gland, along with the pineal gland, are the two awesome parts of our existence that allow us to think on a whole other way and realm. That through our pineal gland, we can, be informed by our own spirit and other spirits. And that voice that I can bring inside has wisdom, knows what the right answer to a question is, knows what the right way to move through a relationship thing that's happening live at that moment. Right? We've talked a lot with about the pineal gland. The pineal gland is what connects us to the spirit. It's the seventh chakra, Sahasrara chakra. It is the chakra that gives Christ his halo. Oh wait, today I have a halo. I have an ayahuasca halo today. It is what gives Lord Shiva the flame on the crown of the head. It is what gives the Buddha his hairdo, his pinecone hairdo. This is the pineal gland. And connects us. So when I can connect, and how do I connect? How do I trigger my pineal gland to be more active so I can be more on the side of thinking from that side, thinking slash intuiting slash downloading actual wisdom or actual clarity, rather than just spinning words that I've collected from the collective and all my fears and my predispositions. So the practice of yoga, Tai Chi, the practice of shamanism, practice of meditation are all shamanic practices. Shamanic meaning that they're practices that help us move our point of focus and choose where we're thinking from. And then you can simply ask me and say, hey, Ray, you know, after 20 years that you've been doing all this shamanism, yoga and kung fu and everything that you're doing, are you always thinking from the pineal gland and from the higher self? And the honest answer is no, because we don't always, our thinking is like our breathing. You don't say, okay, now I am going to inhale and go, now I'm going to exhale. We don't think of this at all. It's not something you think of, it's something that's happening. So thinking is happening. So the answer to this is that although I'm not always in my pineal gland and thinking for my higher self, I have trained myself over and over and over again, first of all, to doubt, not myself, but to doubt the narrator, to really make sure that my thoughts have the quality of discernment. I have trained myself not to immediately answer, because the narrator has all the answers ready. So if I do so, if I immediately answer the moment you've just finished a sentence, that means I never really thought, never really felt in to what you just told me. And the third thing that I've done that is really important for thinking is that I have trained my thinking mind with the vocabulary of the I Ching. The I Ching, I would say, is the Bible of the Taoists. Lao Tzu, I Ching. If you don't know about the I Ching, send me an email at evolve@jaguarpath.com. We will be doing more workshops on the I Ching. And I have trained my my narrator by adding vocabulary from the I Ching, from the Yoga Sutras, and from the Enlightenment Sutras. So when I'm reading these scripts, what's happening is that I'm downloading words, qualities of words, sequences of wording that really recalculate and re-pattern the brain itself. Your vocabulary, all your vocabulary, and the patterns of how the words are going to fall one after the other are what really make you or help you decide what your whole life is about and what you have to do about one situation or another. So if we're not trained, it's like many people say, I come from an academic family, so it was all about go to get your master's, get your PhD. I didn't get my PhD. I got it up in the Andes, actually, with the shamans. I only teach a PhD program, but I never got my PhD. But if I do not train my brain, right, think of it just as to that level. The more training I have, the more school I have, the more books I've read, the richer my thoughts can be, the richer my imagination can be. The more words I have, the richer I can describe a situation around me, the best I can describe it in detail and in qualities. But when it comes to knowing and noticing where the thought is coming from, it is important to understand that when I know it's coming from my narrator, I'm always in check. Am I bringing forth, am I thinking through the vocabulary that I've learned through the I Ching, through the Yoga Sutras, through the Bhagavad Gita? Am I thinking through the teachings of Christ, through the teachings of Buddha? Am I thinking in relationship to what I've learned about Hindu mythology? Who was Shiva and how did he create the universe? Who was Shakti, his wife, and what did she do? Who was Saint Francis and what did he do? See, so the whole idea of saints and of all religions is that we study the religions, we study the words of Christ, we study the words of the Buddha, because now we're enriching our vocabulary and the patterns of way of thinking. So our processor or narrator, if it's just spitting out things unconsciously, it's at least been educated so much more to be just processing a little bit more educated thoughts. And because the thing is this, I don't know if you've ever felt this, and this word becomes really yogic, I want to say, or martial artist. It's like the martial artists know that thought is random. And if I learn how to do a Tai Chi form, and I'm doing the form every day, every day, every day, what I'm truly doing is I'm regulating my endocrine system and my meridian system. Thoughts are produced by the electricity and the chemistry that is happening in the body. So when you say, heaven forbid, I would open the TV and there's news on, I never do that. I'll tell you what the news are. It's like, it's always the end of the world. It's been the end of the world. I remember since I was a child. There's problems in the Middle East. Let me guess, there's problems in the Middle East. Everything is happening always in the world, especially the end of the world, always, always. Since the Roman Empire, since the Egyptians, there's always like this catastrophe is awaiting us. And it just might be. Thing is, be here now. Be here now. So the difference, I think, and I feel that we're talking about here is like when we move to evolve and when we decide to become a shaman or an awakened one or a mindful person, then what we do is that we're very careful of what we're feeling and what we're hearing. We're very careful of the thoughts in our mind that is popping up in our mind. And here, going back to the endocrine system and the meridian system, like if I had like whiskey last night, I didn't promise. Didn't. I think it would be great if I liked it, but I don't. If I had whiskey last night, most likely I will have predisposition of anger because my liver is pumping right now. My liver is inflamed. So anger will be coming up. If I had food that depleted my kidney energy, most likely the next day I will have thoughts that are fueled with fear. If I had food that was just so spicy and so loaded with different oils, my spleen is going to be taxed. So I'm going to have thoughts and feelings of anxiety. If I had a lot of dairy yesterday and a lot of dairy, I probably have a lot more mucus in my whole body and especially the lungs. So I will be more inclined to be sad. So thoughts play off emotions and emotions play off thoughts. And that's why we're in this like thing of like, I don't know if you've ever felt like I'm chasing my tail. I'm thinking about something now, wait a minute, because I have whiskey or 3 whiskeys yesterday. So now I'm feeling a little bit pissy already. And then I have these thoughts that of anger. What happens is that my body is saying, what are you thinking up there? Oh, you're thinking thoughts of anger. Let me put in some more anger, and then more anger is put in, and then that goes back to the brain. So we start going like most of the thoughts that we have are in emotions spiral upward and usually and maybe all the way to out of control. So discernment and detachment go together. We need to be really clear, discern that not every thought we think, not every thought we have in our brain is true, and we don't even have to believe it. You could say it's like, have you ever like when you're speaking made a mistake? You said, so maybe I'm thinking something, I just made a mistake. I didn't want to think about that right now. So I'm just going to change it. Like, in other words, who's responsible? Hi there, Mr. Bird. I can't think with this bird. I can feel. So who's responsible for your thinking? Do you decide what you think, or does the thinking itself decides what's going to think for you? And this is the basis of what I want to say, what I'm sharing tonight, and I will open it to like a conversation or questions because it's tricky. It's like you guys came and you're thinking about what I'm saying, and I honor that and thank you for coming and thank you for being here to hear my thoughts on about thoughts. And so it's really tricky. The thing is, where am I? Who am I when I start not believing every thought I have, and I am almost not 100% trusting the thoughts that I have in my head? That can cause almost like insecurity or panic, right? It's like, well, if I don't trust myself, who am I going to trust? So trust yourself, but keep discernment about your thoughts, because your thoughts are passing. They are not who you are. They might, or you might feel, I might feel that it represent who I am in the moment I'm speaking them, but I may have new thoughts tomorrow. And I hope I have new thoughts tomorrow. And in 10 years from now, it's like, well, I hope I have even more new thoughts and I'm thinking about something else in a whole different way. I hope I have, first of all, liberated myself from that loop that keeps me wanting to be the same person every day forever, because that person, it worked for that person. The Ray of yesterday stayed alive. So I want to repeat that again so I can stay alive again. It's a really simple thing that is in this brain. It's right here. It's right in the reptilian brain, and it really guides our mind to be going over and over. That's why we like to repeat things. We like to have the coffee every morning, have that what we do every day. That's why we have patterns, because when I come back to my pattern, what happens is I'm doing that thing that I'm doing that is in my pattern. I'm like having a coffee, or I'm having the whiskey, or I'm whatever my pattern is. And every time I'm drinking that coffee again, I say, see, that ray of the past is here and I'm totally safe. I'll be totally okay. As long as I keep on drinking my coffee at the same time every day, I am almost like making a guarantee that I'll be drinking that tomorrow. And of course, you really well realize that there's no guarantee that I'll be here tomorrow. I'll do my best, and I've done pretty good actually. It was I'm here. So the idea and what I'm offering here is that shamans and yogis and martial artists say it's like, well, when you're feeling a thought come up, feel it. See what other secondary thought you have about it. And if you feel it is useful for this very moment to be expressed, express it. If you feel that it's useful for what it's making you feel and where it's driving you to, then think it. If you feel that your thought is negative, say, hey, my beloved negative thought, I will not have you right now here. I'll see you a little bit later. Namaste. I can distract myself. I can change what I'm thinking. The difficulty with changing what we're thinking is that the moment I think something, without anyone asking me, any part of my body asking me, the pituitary gland tells all the other glands to start secreting those emotions that go with that thought. So if I think of someone that I didn't like in the past, I'm secreting not liking emotions in my body. Now they're starting to take over. I'm beginning to feel a little discomfort. Like I thought so-and-so who had a fight, who I didn't like, and then I begin to go into the detail of what I didn't like. And then he said, and I said, and he said. So the brain does this, right? And it's such a waste of spinning around its tail, because now it's just secreting emotions in your body that most likely have nothing to do with the present moment. Like I know personally that it took me a very long time to process, say, my divorce. It does for people, right? I didn't need to process my divorce for 10 years. My divorce happened when it happened. It only happened then. It wasn't happening for the next 10 years. Yet we get caught in these things, and that guarantee that I'm going to be the same person constantly delivers, because you end up being the same person constantly and there's no evolution. And I can never be in this. And I want to say I stopped thinking about my divorce because it's a very long time ago when it happened. And this gives me space to have nothing to do with exchange of the emotions. I mean, even my ex-wife has changed who she is, and I love her for it, and I love her for who she is now, and I love her husband for who he is. But if I would go back to thinking, well, the divorce, then, and I'm thinking about what a person said or did, or what I said or did 20 years ago, it has nothing to do with reality, because none of this exists right now. And basically, if I'm thinking, and just look at it this way, everything that you're thinking creates a chemical predisposition in your body that colors the way you're viewing life in the moment. So when you look out, it could be like, it's like I have the two people over here, say, and we're two of us over here, and it's raining, right? It's rainy season here in Costa Rica now. It's raining constantly. So anyway, so it's raining. I'm thinking, oh my God, look at this rain. It's so beautiful. And the other person could say, oh my God, it's raining again. I can't go out. Oh, even, let me give another example. I can say one moment, oh my God, this is beautiful rain. And then an hour later can be saying, I hate the rain. You know, so who's true and who's right? The only person who is true and is right, there is no true and there is no right. There's a being. There's things that are happening while we're being. I'm being, and being is a verb of continuous. It's continuous as life is continuous and unfolding. And I am folding in my relationship to what's happening now. I am being. I wanted to say I being instead of even I am, because it's not about who I am. It's what I'm being, or who being right now. Right? It's in our language. It's in our language. Say I am, and that I am is elusive because there is no I am. I am the experience that I'm having at the moment that I'm being in it. That's the only I am that exists. And we have kind of like said it in our minds, like, no, I am that. I am Ray, and I'm a photographer, and I live in Athens, Greece. There's an illusion to that because I am not that anymore, and nor do I live there anymore, nor do I do that anymore. Because I've been being, and I'm being Ray right now, who is a shaman and lives in Costa Rica, and I'm here with you guys tonight. So I'm gonna pause right here because because it can get really abstract, and I want to open it to questions, and actually I'll open it to thoughts. Any thoughts for the last 13 minutes of being here, and I know what I'm sharing now is exactly that, is food for thought. For me, any decision I make, sometimes even small decisions, definitely big decisions, when I need to make a decision, I go to meditation and I go to the I Ching and I ask the I Ching, I ask the great one, or I'll go to ayahuasca and ask the spirit that I will meet, the saints, the avatars, who I will meet. I will ask from the outside, and I have a trust in the way I am being. And voila. I am free to expand and evolve that way. I'm making sure that there is space for me to change the way I think. So that way I'm really making sure that I am actually evolving. So again, I'll pause. I'm going to look into the chat box. Awesome, Amanda. Amanda put in the link for August 10th open house. So go in there, copy paste it, be with us on August 10th. Nina and I will be talking about the Jaguar Path training that's beginning in October, and it is the 18th training in shamanism. I don't see though any other questions. So if anyone has a question, put it in the chat box, or feel free to turn on your camera, wave your hand, and ask me directly. You know, I'll keep on talking unless you ask me something. Descartes, the great philosopher. Jeff, yeah. Thank you, my brother Jeff. So does a shaman's voice use language, words, or something else? So awesome, Jeff. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your friendship of all these years, and for these awesome conversations we've had all these years, for relationships and the way we are and what we do, especially as men in the world. And how can we be great men in the world and offer awesome awesome, offered to just like, to serve the feminine and thank Mother Earth. And I love how you thank Mother Earth. And I'll tell you, especially you, my brother Jeff, the language of your shamanism is in your feet, walking all those mountains, those hikes that you've done in the great mountains of the world. It's like the being here and walking, where you just let thought go. You let thought go. You're walking one step after the other for hours on end. My God, those treks that you've done throughout the world that I've watched you and seen all these photographs, etc. So, what happens is, that does the shaman use a language? Yeah, because that's what happens. The mind is producing words. The mind is using words to think. But I have put all my words through a little shiv, and I've clarified them from what I know can be holding me back. And I'm still an alert if any of these words that I'm thinking, using to think, may be skewing my reality about it. And I've learned as a shaman, I'm not holding tight onto anything. I'm not holding tight onto anything. I can watch things, tapanda re, everything flows. I can watch things come in and come out. And one of the greatest practices, and let me give a gift today let me give you something today that is a gift on this subject. So it's just not thoughts about thoughts and more thinking and spinning around the thinking thing. When you find yourself in a conversation with others, in a group or in a one-on-one, just have it in mind that a shaman doesn't always have an opinion on things, especially when in a group. Try out when you're in a group to notice when you want to throw in your opinion, when you're ready, when the energy moves and you say, well, guys, I think da-da-da-da. When that happens, what you just got is a surge of energy, and that surge of energy is a gift to you. So try to conserve it, and as that surge comes, do not say anything. Rather, actually inhale and take that surge of energy deep into your belly, because right under the navel is where we actually store our energy. And notice after a few minutes how you feel. And notice if you could do that 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times in an evening where you are with other friends, where you usually would express an opinion, especially if you wanted to express a disagreement. Hold that disagreement. Disagreement is so much energy that's ready to come up and out, to block or to push someone back or to say no in any way or to change something. Disagreement is a huge amount of energy that you are just about to leak out of your body and away from your existence. Disagreement or most of the thoughts generally are energy that they're going to be sent outward and we'll never have that energy back, or we have to do more yoga, we have to eat better food, we have to replenish that energy. So the trick here, and I'll speak directly to you, my brother Jeff, is like, watch yourself in a conversation, and especially when you feel this disagreement coming up, when you just don't express your disagreement. And one of the things that I discovered personally is that what happened is that it was not the end of the world. Because my mind thought before, especially when I was in conversation, I wanted to disagree with someone. It's like I had to disagree to set things right, to make sure everything is right, because my logic is the best and I know best. How about I don't express an opinion and I just watch others and I listen to others go ahead with the whole conversation that is happening, and I just become a witness to the conversation that's happening. And I feel that that's perhaps one of the most powerful shamanic practices to do. Because if I can awaken the witness that watches other people having a conversation and I don't need to get all caught up in that, then I can start witnessing my own thinking and I don't need to get caught up in that. And what I do get caught up in, or what I do, is I channel that energy and I keep it inside my body for my immune system. I keep it in for my clearing of my meridians, and I make sure that nor the conversation or the thought has triggered emotions that are now chemistry in my body that is bringing me in a negative space. Am I making sense? And I think a lot of it, one of the things that shamans talk about is self-importantism. It's like, if I think I'm so important, and maybe that's the biggest gift I received when I was dying from cancer 17 years ago when I was in the middle of the jungle of Peru, and I didn't even know that I would exit the jungle or if I would just be thrown in a ditch somewhere and never be found. I realized that I have no importance. No one will know if I die. And I know it today too. It's like, okay, so today 100 people will know or 10,000, whatever, but it doesn't matter. If I can live my life without my ego being so important, about my opinion on things being so important, I can live a life of discernment. I can live and I can allow people to have their moments and their opinions freely, and I can just watch them, right? Because if someone has an opinion about something, and I used to think like that 10 years ago, I might have to let this person pass another 10 years of experiences to reach where I am today, right? Because the Tao Te Ching says everything unequal always. Every human being is in another moment of their life, in another emotion, in another evolutionary stage. Some people are really down there. There's some enlightened ones that are really up there. We're all somewhere, unequal always. So if I train myself to be the witness, and I can be in the presence of people and just watch the people and offer a nod and offer a question to encourage them to speak more, watch what happens to your energy. So because it's about energy and not thinking at the end, it's an experiment that you can do if you like to. You don't need to do it. But if you like to, watch what happens when where you usually engage, you don't. Watch and feel where all that energy comes and how it comes back to you. Shamans do have thoughts, and as many of you, some of you know, I believe very much what the Yoga Sutra says, where Patanjali says both the material and the spiritual are for the soul. And I'll end with this thought, and I will say this because that has been, I've worked in yoga centers for 15 years plus. I've traveled throughout the world to yoga centers teaching, and I've seen hundreds, or I've seen thousands of people. And I have been a spiritual seeker, so I've found myself chasing my tail so many years. I am not what I think, but the Scott says, I think, so therefore I am, was what he thought. I'm inhaling God in my body, and that's why I am. I am present and I'm witnessing a moment, a human being, another person, my son being born, my wife being happy, a sunset. I am witnessing. While I'm witnessing, I am fully participating. When I am thinking, I am not fully participating. I am creating a judgment and a separation. So we create thought, we make sure that our thoughts have everything to do with the studies, we make sure that the thoughts are positive, and we make sure that if they're negative, we let them go quickly and don't allow them to have that chemical secretion in our body and hijack our day. The less we think, the more we live in discernment. So I think Amanda is putting in a practice for practice. Thank you, Amanda. So try it out, guys. If there's one question, I'll take it. We have 2 minutes. I'm happy to take a question if there is a question. I'm happy to take even more questions. I want to say, please go over to the chat box. If you're here and you're curious, there's a reason our paths have met. There's a reason you invested your time here today. I thought I'd talk a little bit on this funny subject because it's paradoxical by nature, because we have to think about thought and how you think above your level of thinking. But it's a huge part of why humanity has not evolved, or a huge part of why it's so difficult to grow spiritually. And if you're here, you're already in a spiritual path, and you already know that you've been trying and trying and trying. Humor is your number one ally, and knowing that God, the divine energy, put your name to the God or the goddess, is always everywhere. And we are right now, right here at the right place. Okay, it's Amanda again. I thought someone was chatting in the text. Amanda, you rock. Thank you so much. So if you guys want to go and copy the whole chat box, you'll have all the information and just a reminder of this practice. If you're able to participate now, and I'm just going to clarify this to make sure, it's like when you are usually with your friends that you usually are, notice if you can let go of some of the comments, answers, or thoughts that you usually share, especially if you want to disagree. Hold that. The practice is to see how you're really feeling, that energy stay with you and empower you. Notice the power that you can get by holding that thought and by not sharing it, by not buying into that thought and really integrating it into what is happening. Again, you don't have to be strange. You don't have to go, you have to be weird. Don't go to your buddies and just not talk all night. That would be weird, and that is going to create a whole other conversation that's just going to be so complicated, it's going to take away the energy you gathered. Talk less and less and less, and listen more and more and more, and be fully present, because there's just so much said anyway, besides people's thoughts that come out of their mouth. There's just so much said with their body language, with their breath, with the tone of voice, and what's happening with her hands, that you're missing out if you're thinking. So be fully present there, open your heart, and keep your heart open to everyone, every moment that you're present with. I hope this is good food for thought. I hope you enjoy the practice. Practice it, because that's the only way you can feel what I'm talking about. And also practice noticing your thoughts, remembering that if you have a negative thought, the only thing you want to do is walk away from that negative thought. Even if it's about it's about my ex-husband, it's about this person that stole my car or stole my idea. The Namaste, there's one thing that the Buddha said, and the Buddha said, there's many things the Buddha said, but one of the most important things that the Buddha said is, I have no enemies. I have no enemies. Live like the Buddha. You have no enemies. There is no one that necessarily thinking about someone needs to trigger negative thoughts and emotions than that you are hostage of. The person that did that or didn't do that, the person that hurt you or angered you, the person that behaved in a different way than your values say they should, is a person that you may choose to continue to be with or not, to continue to stay in that room that moment or not, continue to talk on the phone that moment or not. It's your personal choice of where you're guiding yourself. So the more you look back at yesterday, the day before yesterday, the day before yesterday, etc., the more you have been in a space of disattachment and discernment. Don't let disattachment bother you too much. And the more you live in the space of discernment, the more you're living in a peaceful place where your body is putting out a vibration that is going to bring the coincidences that you really like, that will really evolve yourself, right? So discernment. That's where the shamans live. That's where the saints live. That's where any evolutionary human being lives. And rather, I was to say, if there's anything, any effort, because it's a constant effort, because I've been practicing for 20 or 30 years, doesn't mean that, oh, now I'm good, I don't have to practice anymore. The practice continues exactly so I can keep staying out of the collective consciousness. We live in a magnetic field of the collective consciousness. So we're going to be feeling people's angers and people's fear, and then we're going to start thinking all that. And that's the point. When I begin to feel anger or fear or any negative emotion that does not serve me, does not serve humanity, does not serve my evolution and my health, that's a thought I need to let go of. If it's anger about someone else, I can't pin the responsibility on that person. I'm having angry thoughts for 10 years because so-and-so stole my car. It is necessarily, and I'm sorry to say, my own responsibility to stop thinking about that person and to stop creating that feeling in my own body. So thank you all. So think with discernment, use discernment as your filter, share and do think and do share thoughts and conversations with other human beings. It's a beautiful thing to do, but notice who's having the conversation and who's driving the conversation, and what is the result of the conversation in your body. Weigh everything that's happening in the moment that it's happening, if it is actually serving your evolution, or if it's serving some chemical addiction of being angry for so many years, or being sad, or being a victim for so many years. Because that element, and I'll stop here because I can talk forever, but that just kind of thinking to your question, Jeff, how do shamans think? It's really important to remember that when I'm thinking something and it creates anger, I'm secreting in my whole body cortisol and adrenaline, and my cells are now receiving it. And if I've lived in this for many years in anger, and I know I did for a decade, I lived in that. I know my anger and my emotions drove me to cancer. But as I was living it, my cells were feeding on it. And when I stopped having it, my cells were having withdrawal symptoms. I was looking for reasons to be angry. Notice if you are, this is across the board to everyone that's here. Are you looking for some reason to be angry? Are you looking to be sad? Because the answer may very well be yes. And that's nothing to make you feel guilty or spin around your tail again. It's like, so I'm letting that go. I'm letting that go. And I'm going to feel that lack. So when I'm feeling that lack, because I'm not feeling the anger and I'm not in that groove, what I do is I go to Tai Chi, I go to Qigong, I go to yoga. And see, Dorothea, Yasu Dorothea, thank you for being here. It's really nice to be connected with Greece again. Is this the best way to deal with people in the family who get angry very easily? Awesome. This is going to be just a 3-hour answer, if that's okay with you. You're going to be, I know it's 1 a.m. already in Greece. The way, yes, absolutely, Dorothea, you nailed it. So if there's a person in the family or a friend, and I think that everyone has this question. It's like, how do I deal with that person that gets angry in my family? I deal with it is the best way to deal is inhale while they're speaking. Inhale and feel that you bring all those words they're saying down through the body and down through your feet. Mother Earth loves heavy energy. And the more you feed that heavy energy to her, the more she will bring flowers back to her. Actually, the shamans say kiddingly, it's like, you know what? Manure and bullshit are not good for us. But when we give it to the earth, she gives us back fruits, flowers, beauty. It's just awesome how she changes it. We're not able to do that. If we receive that energy, we keep on storing it. It's impossible. It's difficult to impossible to change it to beauty. So what happens is we run over our nervous system too much and our endocrine system, and then we become depleted, and then we become sad. Then we actually become actual victims of that person. There's in the training itself, there's one segment that we talk about narcissists and sociopaths. Narcissism is a real big human thing, right? I would say 30% of people on the planet are narcissists. The 40% along with narcissists, sociopaths, and a couple other terms, psychological terms. There's a good 40% of people that are not, let me just simply say this because it's a very big subject and has everything to do with enlightenment and all the practices that we do. There's a good 40% of the people, and sometimes me and you and I jump onto that, we go to 50, 60% of people, that they're not, there's 30 or 40% of the people that are not connected to their prefrontal cortex. They are directly coming from the amygdala. If you see a dictator does not have a connection with the prefrontal cortex. When you hear about what Hitler did and how he murdered 12 million people or what the numbers were, you say, my God, how is that even possible? How would you do such an atrocious thing? And you're saying that because you're using your prefrontal cortex. You're using compassion and love and understanding and all those beautiful qualities that a mind can produce, that the neocortex can produce. But most people live in the back brain, and when people live in the back brain, those qualities are not there. Empathy is lacking. So I'm saying something and I don't even know how you're going to feel. So narcissists even say things to watch people hurt or to watch people get reaction, to see what the reaction is. Because narcissists don't have a lot of the emotions we have and the processes. Like, so at the end of the day, every day, if you notice when you're like laying down, you're getting ready to go to sleep, or you're now in your pillow, you're kind of thinking what happened. And I went there and we had this Dharma talk, and Ray talked about this, and someone asked this. That's a natural process. Narcissists do not have this process. They're only like, what's happening right now? What's happening now? That's gone, whatever. It's gone, doesn't exist. Now I'm here. Now I'm here. And there's a subconscious mechanisms for narcissists, because they're not feeling a lot of the emotions that we feel and the colors of the emotions. They will say things to trigger people to make them feel and watch them feeling it, right? They will want to watch you be angry. They want to watch you be sad. They want to watch you be confused. So it may or may not be the case for your family, and it might not answer your question. What we do, though, is with either people in the family, and if they are not narcissists, right? There's narcissists and petty tyrants. And it's just amazing. I've had endless conversations with my buddy Jeff, that's right up there. Thank you, Jeff, on this subject, because I was a number one magnet to invite in narcissists into intimate relationships. And then my narcissism was like, oh, this person is a narcissist because they haven't had love. And I'll love them so much that they'll stop being a narcissist. So if you ever find that yourself, I see some smiles, stop doing that. One thing you can do with narcissists, only one thing you can do with narcissists, step out of their sandbox. Do not play with them. There is no change. There is no healing. That's that. I have it in my calendar that in around 2025, I will spend 6 months in the jungle diving into, can we, through shamanic healing, reconnect the back brain with the front brain? So can I find ways to heal narcissists? So far, I have not. The only thing I could say to you is that you don't try to heal them. If there's someone in your family that is always angry, see if you could talk to them to avoid anything that's alcohol or that's hot, that's spicy. All those things really ignite the liver, and they're gonna be there. They're gonna be already pre-charged. Some people believe that that's their personality and they have to stay like that so they don't lose their personality. Whatever it is, you have to remember what you're thinking. So if it's coming at you, bring it down to the earth. It had nothing to do with you. If you can walk out of the room, walk out of the room. Walk out of the room without triggering them. Say, oh my God, I remember I have to see, I'm going to see you later. You can yell at me later. I'll be right back. Whatever it is, just step away and step aside. And if you feel that they fit in the description of narcissist, know that that is not something that we've found healing for yet. Not in Western medicine or shamans. It's a thing. And even when we get angry, we become narcissists, because when we are angry, what happens is that our amygdala takes over. So we don't have the qualities of the prefrontal cortex to use. Love, compassion, empathy, intuition, understanding, patience, all those things disappear. So we're back there where a narcissist usually just lives always. And that's when we don't want to make decisions. And that's the unfortunate thing with life. Sometimes we make decisions when we're angry, right? Or we say things when we're angry. And those are the things we regret. Jagno, sorry. My Greek, English, and Spanish are all confused. What are your thoughts about narcissism and demonic possession? Is there a connection? You know, it's a loaded question, right? Especially when we're talking about demonic, let me find your word again, possession. Because, you know, I talked about thoughts earlier, and I said that our thoughts are made of words, and the words belong to the collective consciousness. So when I just hear the word demonic possession, we're all fed in all this information from Christianity, and I could see the priest with the cross trying to get the demon out, and the chaos of that, or people being institutionalized, or people even being put to the fire to burn because they were being possessed. Perhaps narcissists are more Perhaps, yeah, no, okay. Narcissists, if there's a correlation, yeah, narcissists are more, what would be the word? Are more likely, or more. There's more chances for a demonic spirit to enter in a narcissist body, for two reasons. One is because uh, any demonic spirit will not enter into a pure heart that is feeling love and is exhibiting love and compassion. It doesn't jive with that energy. It's like, yikes, I'm not going to go anywhere close to that person, because that energy, I hate that energy of love, compassion, being okay with other people being different, being fine with people being different in any way. And they're more in the mammalian brain, so discernment is lacking. So yes, there is a better chance, but it is a very big subject, and I'm not giving you a full answer. So more thought for more food there, more thought for food. I think that one of the tools that shamans use, I know one of the tools that shamans use is what is called intrusive entity extraction, and that's what someone should do. And also, if you feel that you're ever dealing with someone that has demonic, and here this is really, it's like negative spirits coming into their body. I feel that the best thing to do is bow away, because if you're not like a psychotherapist, and if you're not a psychotherapist, you can't prescribe drugs, so you can't help that person. And if you're not an experienced shaman, you can't really just take that demon out or boo it away. So what's going to happen, again, with the same thing with narcissist, or even more so if someone you're feeling is really something else is taking over, what's going to happen is it's going to drain you dry. It's just going to drain you. You're going to try, and you'll be like, well, I'm compassionate and I love this person, and I have so much love in me that I'm just going to keep on feeding this person. And what's going to happen is you're going to dry. And what happens to people that stay with people for years like that, and that conversation is happening in their head unconsciously, is that eventually that wears off on you. And if that person you put in 10 years of loving didn't feel the love and didn't receive it, you're going to say, you know what? I don't care. I'm not going to do this anymore. It's going to shift you. I'm not going to put my love out in the world anymore, because what happened is it drained me. So I invite you to keep on putting your love out in the world, and keep on saying, I love every person, and noticing if there's people that you feel that you can't help, bow out and say, maybe there's another teacher for this person. Maybe there's another healer. Like, I am a healer. I see people in my office, see people online, actually. And I've seen hundreds and hundreds of people. There are some people at the end of the session, most people that say, okay, let's meet for 1 or 2 more sessions and we're going to be done. There are some cases that I say at the end of the session, I hope this has helped you. If you want more help, there is someone I know, or I would advise go to da 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 da. It's like I politely lead the people to some other place, because it doesn't matter that I have 20 years of experience or that I healed myself from cancer. There are people that I can't heal, because the biggest secret of all, or it's not a secret, I say it all the time. The first thing that the shamans told me when I arrived, not one of them, the 3 main teachers, and they didn't even know each other. It's like, I said, please heal me. I'm dying. I have cancer. I'm going to die. I have 90 days to live. That's what the doctors told me. I'm dying right now. And they all said, I can't heal you. And I'm like, I thought shamans heal us. I can train you to become a shaman, and you can heal yourself. So every person's life is every person's responsibility, their own responsibility. As healers, as compassionate human beings that we are, and we're gathering in this circle today to talk, your compassion goes out to not be negative towards them, and your compassion is pointed towards them in your love by perhaps guiding them somewhere they can get help. Your compassion can come in full force and full shine outward if it is saying, you know what, you should see if you can find a way to change that and not feel that way. And then your compassion will show up by walking away. Namaste away. We say, it's just like, sometimes we need to say namaste 100 feet away, because what happens again is we're wrapped up. and the person that has a problem or has an entity intrusion in them, thank you, Stacy. Lots of love to you, and hope to see you on the 10th. And I'll say one more sentence, and I will close the night, because I try not to go over, and I'm way over today. So I'll close this, and I'm going to say, show your love, because maybe sometimes by walking away, because if a person's behavior makes other people walk away all the time, it will catch on to them, and they say, wait, maybe I need to change my behavior, so people stop walking away. And that sometimes is the greatest help you can give. And remember, the greatest person, the most important person that you can help is you. And you need to help yourself from a voice of discernment, not from your narrator, and say, oh, dear Ray, dear Jaco, dear Dorothea, you need to walk away right now. Although you want to help this person, the best thing you should do is walk away. And let that person, because at the end, when we're helping people and putting up with things, what we do is we're becoming enablers. We're enabling them to believe that behavior like that is acceptable, and we'll take it, and we'll come back again tomorrow, and again the day after tomorrow, and we'll keep on coming back. Well, I love you anyway. Keep on yelling at me. I love you anyway. And they will keep on yelling at you, because no one said stop, or no one said it's not okay. So there's a moment to say namaste, and you can just walk away and be quiet, or say, this is not okay. This is not a place that I want to be in, or what I want to be hearing. You want to speak about love, you want to speak about being cool, you want to speak about anything else, let's talk about it. But if you're yelling, or if you're accusing me, or if you're characterizing me, it's like, namaste away. So more, again, I hope you guys come on August 10th. This year's training is rock and roll, is out of this world, literally. 18 years of tweaking it, 18 rather trainings in the last 14 years that I've run, these 18 trainings. I've tweaked it, I've changed it. I've learned tons of things from the hundreds of questions that I received from people. And I am here directly backed up and in connection with the shamans, my teachers, who I meet with every week on Zoom, who we teach. And we will have some guests through the 9-month training. Some of the elders will be joining us. In essence, a lot of clarity and discernment and power that you can directly take for yourself and live a life that you want. Thank you all again for being here. Namaste, and I look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Namaste, namaste, and as they say in Quechua in Peru, Horpichai, thank you from my heart. Bye guys, I really appreciate you being here. Ευχαριστώ Dorothea, καλή νύχτα. Good night to all.